have always been a part of our lives. I think there's a difference to watching a home movie when you know who it is on the other side of the lens, holding the camera. It adds to the sense of intimacy. Like many families, my parents wanted to keep a record of our precious moments together. And when it was our turn with our own family, we did the same. I always enjoyed capturing family moments. Private photos can often show the fun behind the formality. I expect just about every family has a collection of photographs or films that were once regularly looked at to recall precious moments, but which over time are replaced by newer images and more recent memories. You always hope that future generations will find them interesting and perhaps be surprised that you too were young once. Back is not necessarily to be nostalgic. Winston Churchill, my first Prime Minister, said that the further backward you look, the further forward you can see. I remember my own childhood. My mother always gave me support and encouragement. She had an infectious zest for living. And an extraordinary capacity to bring happiness into other people's lives. My father served in the Royal Navy during the First World War. He was a midshipman in HMS Collingwood at the Battle of Jutland in 1916. The British fleet lost 14 ships and 6,000 men in that engagement. He wrote in a letter, "How and why we were not hit beats me." Like others, he lost friends in the war. But of course, we would not grieve if we did not love. In my experience, the positive value of a happy family is one of the factors of human existence that has not changed. Faith, family and friendship have been not only a constant for me, but a source of personal comfort and reassurance. My grandfather couldn't have known what was in store for his grandchildren. Yet his faith in the future gave him a quiet confidence that the stern tests would be overcome.
I look forward to the future with faith and hope. It is to the young that the future belongs. And when the time comes, be ready and proud to give to your country the service of your work, your mind, and your heart.
Within 8 months of the Silver Jubilee, King George lay dead.
King George V, greatly loved and gratefully remembered.
I have lived long enough to know that things never remain quite the same for very long.
one can make history stand still. Events and situations change at startling speed.
I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility and to discharge my duties as king without the help and support of the woman I love. This decision has been made less difficult to me by the sure knowledge that my brother, with his fine qualities, will be able to take my place forthwith. And he has one matchless blessing, enjoyed by so many of you and not bestowed on me. A happy home with his wife and children. God bless you all. God save the King.
I remember my father making me write down what I remembered about his coronation. It was very valuable.
We crouched in the window, looking onto a cold, misty morning. We did not eat very much, as we were too excited.
Heavy, excited crowds, raining though it may be.
The police are having trouble to keep the route clear. Millions cheering themselves hoarse this glorious coronation day.
I cannot find words with which to thank you for your love and loyalty to the Queen and myself. If in the coming years I can show my gratitude in service to you, that is the way above all others that I should choose.
Those 8 magnificent greys drawing on that almost unbelievable stagecoach with their majesties the King and Queen.
There are long periods when life seems a small, dull round. And then suddenly we are caught up in some great event which gives us a glimpse of the solid and durable foundations of our existence.
The members of the royal family take their places. The Princesses Elizabeth and Margaret Rose. Princess Elizabeth, who is now heir to the throne.
I thought it all very, very wonderful. And I expect the Abbey did too, as Papa was crowned. At the end, the service got rather boring, as it was all prayers. Granny and I were looking to see how many more pages to the end. At the bottom of the page, it said Finis. We both smiled at each other and turned back to the service.
Queen and I will always keep in our hearts the inspiration of this day. I thank you from my heart, and may God bless you all.
Balmoral is a place one looks forward to very much. I think that it has an atmosphere of its own. Families so often treasure their routines and embrace the roles, traditions and values that mean so much to us. I see it in my own family, and it is a source of great happiness.
Europe is now profoundly troubled. I would end with a special word of greeting to those of my listeners who are young. That the skies are overcast in more than one quarter at the present time. Do not lose heart. Life is a great adventure. The key to all true progress lies in faith, hope, and love.
There are two aspects of novelty about the King's camp this year. First, it was held in Scotland, where the King himself is on holiday. And second, His Majesty visited the camp accompanied by the Queen and the princesses. In this camp, composed of an equal number of working lads and public schoolboys, the same spirit of comradeship prevailed, and His Majesty sampled all the amusements. Of course, the amateur cameras were very busy.
People matter. And it is our relationship with one another that is most important. What people are and what people do does make all the difference. The joint efforts of individuals can defeat the evils of our time.
The King returns to London. Hitler and Stalin sign their pact. On the fateful first Sunday in September, Parliament meets, and the world knows that Britain is at war. At home, we settle down to a new life.
parents would like their children to grow up in peace and tranquility. But for most of this century, the people of this world have had to live through bewildering changes and upheavals.
Darling Granny, we have been very busy knitting lately. We made a blanket for the evacuees, also some jumpers and stockings. I do hope we will not get any air raids. Hitler is a horrid man. Let us hope that this war will not last long.
Some cultures believe a long life brings wisdom. I'd like to think so. Perhaps part of that wisdom is to recognize some of life's baffling paradoxes. Such as the way human beings have a huge propensity for good, and yet a capacity for evil.
Germany's wild attack becomes more savage every hour. Down swoop their bombers on undefended towns, down upon women and children.
The outlook seemed bleak.
The decisive struggle is now upon us. The issue is now plain. It is life or death for us all.
For the very first broadcast I made, helped by my sister, we spoke to children who had been evacuated from their homes and sent away for their own safety.
My sister Margaret Rose and I feel so much for you, as we know from experience what it means to be away from those we love most of all. My sister is by my side, and we are both going to say good night to you. Come on, Margaret. Good night, children. Good night, and good luck to you all.
Darling Granny, I'm so glad you liked the broadcast. Everyone has been saying how like my voice is to Mummy's. We have all-night air raid warnings every night, and the guns go occasionally, and they make a very big noise.
The war affected everyone, and no one was immune from its impact.
From the humblest dwellings of the poorest people to Buckingham Palace. This was the effect of a time bomb that exploded in the grounds of the King's London home. It fell close to the King's sitting room. Truly, this is a war of all the people.
Darling Granny, poor old Buckingham Palace looks very sad. With no windows and bits here and there gone completely.
When 5 bombs fell on and around the palace, the home of our beloved sovereign and his consort is again damaged.
Buckingham Palace for the third time is hit by Nazi bomb.
We thank God that their majesties were unhurt.
The news of the war has been very bad lately. But we will never give in. Your very loving granddaughter, Lilibet.
It is not enough simply to do our jobs. Service demands sacrifice.
We mourn the passing of the King's younger brother, who lost his life on active service. The Duke, who was an airman in his own right, had undertaken duties concerning the welfare of RAF personnel and was on his way to Iceland when the crash occurred.
Many people have had to cope with family loss, sometimes in the most tragic of circumstances.
Darling Granny, it was so very sad about poor Uncle George. His death was such an awful shock, and we will all miss him a great deal. He was always so very kind to us.
We sometimes think the world's problems are so big that we can do little to help. On our own, we cannot end wars or wipe out injustice. But the cumulative impact of thousands of small acts of goodness can be bigger than we imagine.
The King and Queen were setting an example of untiring devotion.
The King, heartened by periodic visits to all those fighting services of the Empire of which he is Commander-in-Chief.
By his visits to his forces, my father brought encouragement to those who had long been parted from their homes and families. He was the living symbol of our steadfastness. He never wavered in his faith that with God's help, the cause of freedom would prevail.
In a broadcast to the nation, my father said, "What is demanded from us all is something more than courage and endurance.
We need a revival of spirit, a new, unconquerable resolve.
I remember waiting for the Prime Minister's announcement of the end of the war in Europe.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May. We may allow ourselves a brief period of rejoicing.
We kept faith that the cause was right, and this belief carried us through. Never give up, never despair. That was the message of VE Day. I vividly remember the jubilant scenes my sister and I witnessed with our parents and Winston Churchill from the balcony of Buckingham Palace. The sense of joy in the crowds who gathered outside and across the country was profound.
realized we couldn't see what the crowds were enjoying. So we asked my parents if we could go out and see for ourselves. I remember we were terrified of being recognized. I pulled my uniform cap well down over my eyes. We walked miles through the streets. I remember lines of unknown people linking arms and walking down Whitehall, all of us just swept along on a tide of happiness and relief. I think it was one of the most memorable nights of my life. My father expressed undiminished hope and trust in the future.
Have faith in life at its best, and bring to it your courage, your hopes, and your sense of humor. Let us have no fear of the future, but think of it as opportunity and adventure.
No official announcement of the princess's engagement had yet been made.
The name of Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten, formerly Prince Philip of Greece, has been repeatedly mentioned throughout the world. To inquirers about her engagement, the princess said, "You must wait and see."
Thousands of cheering people wish Godspeed to the royal family as they arrive for the beginning of their South African journey, and for the princess, the beginning of the biggest adventure of her life, for she has never been abroad before.
For anyone else, this would be a holiday. But she is the future queen on the eve of her 21st birthday, and she has exacting duties ahead of her.
I and all my family have always felt that one of our most important duties is to express in our visits overseas the goodwill of our country towards friends abroad, near and far.
My sister and I were very glad to have been able to accompany our parents.
Before our eyes, history is being made. His Majesty King George VI is the first reigning monarch of England ever to set foot on South African soil.
My first and highly memorable experience of South Africa was in 1947. You can imagine how vivid the contrasts between that visit and my next were, nearly half a century later.
After the royal family's reception in Cape Town, they embarked on an extensive tour inland.
We share the same world, but we do not share the same opportunities. A tolerant society actively develops the people who belong to it and enriches their lives because it values their diversity. The most important contact between nations is usually contact between its peoples.
The princess's attendance was a prelude to a big moment in her life, her dedication to the service of the British Commonwealth, made on her birthday in Cape Town and broadcast to a worldwide audience.
Darling Granny, I am now preparing for my Empire broadcast on my birthday, which is rather a terrifying prospect.